This indeed is my highest honor, so it's so great to be here today. So, the question, can AI be creative? So as a research scientist and engineer, creativity seems to be all about method. However, what truly creative people do, such as artists or filmmakers, seems to be all about magic. If we look at what's happened in artificial intelligence, there's been great progress recently. Everything from computer vision to speech recognition, knowledge and reasoning. There are so many examples where there are extraordinary advances. However, can artificial intelligence be creative? Well, certainly AI is not yet creative in the same way as people. But it is possible for AI to be creepy. And you'll see what I mean in a second. In filmmaking, it's a combination of method and magic together where the goal can indeed be to produce something which is creepy. So I'll talk about a project that we have done recently where we have used artificial intelligence techniques in the process of making a film trailer for a horror thriller movie. So let me tell you a little bit more about the story. So we were approached by a film studio to use our supercomputer Watson with all of its artificial intelligence services to assist in the process of making a film trailer. The result was, within a few days of producing this film trailer, we got several million views on YouTube. We got a lot of coverage in everything from Wired Magazine to Popular Science to Adweek. And what was very interesting about the feedback is it ranged from, well, yeah, computer made a movie trailer to, wow, the computer made a creepy movie trailer, to, wow, the computer made a movie trailer that was even creepier than the original. So this was very encouraging for us, and to tell a little bit more about the story and to see some of the visibility it got, let me go to this next clip. Oops. I'm sorry, can this play? Thank you. Nope. Okay, well, why don't we come back to this particular clip. In this interview, our CEO with Fareed Zarkaya from CNN talked about the project and what it could mean for the creative industries in filmmaking. So to understand where creativity may fit on the spectrum of artificial intelligence, we go back a few years. In 2011, IBM created a system that competed on Jeopardy! And in fact, it was able to beat the world champions at Jeopardy! By essentially analyzing large volumes of unstructured data, text principally, and it was able to answer questions in a human-like way. This was an important building block for having an understanding of massive data that has since morphed into capabilities to understand images and speech and video and so on. So as we've improved our capabilities along the spectrum, certainly we see that creativity is still at the far reaches of this spectrum. But we're exploring this in all kinds of applications, everything from using artificial intelligence to design cooking recipes, to write new songs, and to assist in projects for filmmaking. So there's a little bit more here on the backstory of the trailer, but let me just check and make sure, are we able to play this video clip? No, the one on that slide. Yes, this one? Thank you.
Fox approached IBM and they said, well, we have this movie coming out. It's called Morgan. And it's an AI horror thriller.
Okay, so we seem to have some problem playing this clip, but I think that's okay. We can go ahead. So if we can proceed to the next slide. So what is really a great opportunity in the case of filmmaking, and in particular making movie trailers, is we have an opportunity to model both the input and the output of a creative process. Because historically, we can look at films and we can look at the human-made trailers. So that's exactly what we did to teach the computer this creative process. If we think about what the computer needs to see and hear in these movies, well, it's all kinds of things. It's we need to see objects, we need to see people, we need to see all kinds of scenes and locations, activities that take place, and so on. But there are rich tools that allow us to do this, that in essence allow the computer to build up a representation of these films that it can then it can work with. And the capabilities that we use for this project are the same ones that are available in IBM's Watson platform. We use, for example, the visual recognition tools that out of the box you can send content to it. It will automatically tag that content and so on. And in fact, these services are also customizable, meaning that you can bring your own training data and you can teach these services. And that's something else we leverage tremendously. So just as an illustration of what these services do, if you were to give it a scene from a movie or you were to give it a photograph, it's essentially helping to tag that content. So this is one of the building blocks that we have. So what it gives us then is a capability where if we feed in a movie, it can go through scene by scene and tell us, what it's seeing in that movie. Now, what's notable about having a computer do this work is the computer doesn't get tired. The computer can watch movies day and night. The computer doesn't need popcorn. The computer can easily watch, 1,000 movies or 10,000 movies. So this is really important because the computer here can get insight into a genre of movies, like horror thriller movies, that can be difficult for a human to understand. So one of the things, though, that we observed pretty quickly after we started feeding some of these historical movies into the computer was that these services give us a very factual recounting of what it sees and hears. So basically, if you look at what the computer thinks Psycho is about, of course, a classic horror thriller movie, it's about a fixer-upper house with a windshield wiper, back of a person, a driving wheel, a shower curtain, and so on. Now, all of these things are indeed concepts that it's identifying, but I don't think any of us would say, well, that's what Psycho is about. So clearly, we need something else here, which is more at an emotional level in terms of communication to the audience. So to go beyond sort of the visual objects and visual scenes, we looked at ways to model what we call visual sentiment and audio emotion. Essentially, here's where the computer is looking at scenes and it's putting some kind of label on them that gives an emotional reaction. Something in terms of valence, positive emotion or negative emotion, and arousal. How much participation is there in those particular feelings? So what this gave us then is an ability to label this content with additional adjectives that could tell us, did something look happy, or did it look sad, or did it look scary, and so on. We did the same thing on the visual side we did for audio, where the computer had learned a model around how things sound as a combined audio signal, whether it's speech, music, or some other kind of ambient sound that's happening in the movie. So what this gave us essentially was our feature space, our representation for these films. But then the question is, okay, if we can watch all of these movies and we can have this representation, what's important for a film trailer in this genre? And to do that, we fed the computer another 100 movie trailers in this domain, where the key question was, okay, what's important? What kinds of scenes are being selected to be in these trailers? So what we learned, and essentially you can think of this as a data mining exercise on these film trailers, exploring this high-dimensional space, this representation that we produced for these film trailers. And what we found is very straightforward, and the computer found the three principal axes or dimensions in this feature space are scenes which are suspenseful, scary, or tender. So that gave us a recipe, in effect, that if we think about historically what makes a good film trailer in this genre, that if we feed in a new film and the system could basically apply what it's learned and label the scenes in terms of strength as suspenseful, scary, or tender, then we can have a selection here for creating the trailer. So that's exactly what we did. One of the first run-throughs that we made on this as a test was to apply it to the Omen. So the Omen is a classic horror movie. If we look at the film and we look at the human-made trailer, we can see that, yeah, indeed, the clips that were taken from the movie to make that trailer back in 1976 were a combination of these scenes, which were suspenseful, scary, and tender. So similarly, we applied the computer to make its own version of the trailer for Watson, by Watson, and okay. So let me see if we're able to advance here.
Let's start with the most scary scenes in The Omen, as they appear in order in the movie. Wow, that was scary. Here are the most tender moments. Here are the most suspenseful parts.
Signore, there is nothing there, only graves.
Where is it?
You will find it on the map.
I am here to protect thee.
Okay, so what did the computer do there? So you wouldn't think of that product as a trailer. But what it did is, based on what it learned, it went through the Omen and it picked out the scenes that it felt were good ones to make a trailer. So then these could be handed off potentially to a film editor, and they could indeed put together the final trailer. So why is this important? One of the reasons that this is important is a film editor often has to work with huge amount of video in putting together that final trailer. So on one hand, they may have the produced movie, but they have potentially with shooting ratios 10 to 1, 20 to 1, even as high as 100 to 1, they may have hundreds of hours of video to pull from to make a trailer. And for a typical Hollywood movie, this can take many months. It can take a production team several months to make a film trailer. So if we can have a computer go through this content and take on some of this mundane work and provide that to the film editors, this can really be a much more efficient process. So after we did this work on the Omen, we got the next film from Fox, which is called Morgan. It came out last fall. If people haven't seen it yet, you should definitely watch it. It's a pretty cool flick. And when we got Morgan from the studio, essentially what we were able to do with a one-day turnaround is ingest that movie, run it through these computer algorithms, have the computer select the top scenes on these dimensions of suspenseful, scary, and tender, provide them to a human film editor, have that film editor then put together a trailer and produce the final product. And then that product was then posted online and got really a tremendous response right away. So this was pretty amazing turnaround, one day from movie in to trailer out. So I would like to play the trailer, if that's seeming like it's going to work. Give it a try.
Its first birthday. It exceeded our wildest expectations.
Nice to meet you, Morgan.
Nice to meet you, Lee.
I have a 13-year-old daughter. You don't get to see her much anymore.
Skip, don't go in there, okay?
Don't what?
Don't you go down there, Skip!
Don't be afraid, Amy. I have to go say goodbye to Mother.
Great. So that was the film trailer that was produced. So you can see, certainly there is the human touch in the making of that trailer. But what the computer did was essentially select 10 scenes fully automatically from the movie and then hand those to the editor. In the end, the editor used 9 of them. They didn't use all 10. What they felt is with one of those scenes, there was a little bit of a tell. If you watch the movie, there's a little bit of a twist to the plot, and so there was just some care taken not to give away too much in the trailer. The other thing that the film editor did, which it was really pretty well done in this trailer, was the audio track. So the music that they put and so on really made it a very compelling product. But again, this was a one-day turnaround to produce this. So where does this leave us? So the question I asked at the beginning was, can AI be creative? Well, clearly in this process, the computer had a supporting role. The human was the creative person still. But even with the creative process, there's the method part, there's sort of the mundane work that a film editor can be faced with, and then there's the magic. So everything that the film editor did in putting together that really compelling final product. So computer clearly had a supporting role. So what we see is artificial intelligence can certainly augment creativity. And if we think about the creative process and what goes into it, well, certainly there is preparation. There are precursors to creativity. There's preparation involving knowledge and skill and expertise. These are things that the computer can increasingly take on in this process. So like I said, the computer doesn't get tired. It can easily watch 1,000 movies or even 10,000 movies. It can build up these models of what's important in different genres. It can understand movie content even at an emotional level, which is important in this domain. So this concludes my presentation today. So I hope that we see that this is a very exciting boundary between AI and creativity. These tools are really getting quite powerful. They really can be of great assistance to creative people in producing these works. And I think there are a few minutes to take questions, so I'd be happy to do that now.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're running a little bit behind on schedule, so we won't have time for questions. Will you be walking around here?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So the questions are really interesting. Please go up to John afterwards. Thank you again.
Thank you.